Lesson 6.5 is about circles, circumference, diameter, radius. Can you find one given the other two? Okay, so knowing what they are is the first step, and then knowing the equation or the one equation to find all three. So at the end of this video, you can find circumference, diameter, or radius of a circle.
How is the circumference of a circle related to its diameter? Think about this question during the lesson. Mark recently replaced his front bicycle wheel. How far does the bike travel with each revolution of his new front wheel? The diameter of the wheel is 26 inches. How is one revolution of the wheel related to linear distance?
Okay, so it says if you could take this wheel and open it up into a straight line, how long would that line go, is what it's asking.
Begin by relating the given information to the parts of a circle.
All right, so the parts of a circle, we have the radius. The radius is the distance from the center to the outside of the circle, or the outside to the center of the circle. Diameter is the distance across the circle going through the center. And then the circumference is the distance around the circle.
The circumference is the distance around the circle. The circumference is related to the diameter by a constant ratio. We use the Greek letter pi to represent this ratio. Pi is the ratio of the circumference c of a circle to its diameter d. Multiply both sides of the equation by d to express the relationship as a formula for the circumference. C equals pi times d.
Okay, we could also take it one step farther and find out d. So we could go from that equation, red and blue, red, okay, and say that diameter is equal to circumference didn't mean to take that long, divided by pi. Okay, so if you know one, you know the other two. So we know the equation for pi. We know the equation for circumference. And we know the equation for diameter.
Pi is a decimal number that never repeats or terminates. Its value is 3.14159 and so on, without end. Use the circumference formula to calculate the distance around the wheel. Substitute the value for the diameter of the wheel, 26 inches. The circumference is exactly 26 times pi. What is the approximate value of the circumference in inches?
Select your answer.
Okay, so it wants us to say what is 26 times pi, which is 3.14. So what is 26 about times 3? About 80.
To approximate the distance, use 3 14/100ths for pi. The distance around the wheel is about 81 64/100 inches. So the bike travels about this distance with each revolution of the wheel. Now you know how pi relates the circumference and diameter of a circle.
Okay, so when we get into doing the practice problems, they're going to ask you to solve them or answer them in one of two ways. Okay, one of them is going to be like this, where you have the pi symbol as part of your answer, so 26 pi would be the answer. Okay, when it wants an answer like that, it's going to say, solve this problem in terms of pi. Okay, when it wants you to actually do this, it's going to say, solve this and then round to the nearest something. Okay, so be careful the very end of each question, whether it asks you for in terms of pi or to round to the nearest da-da-da. Okay, in terms of pi means have your pi, the symbol, in your answer. And round to the nearest means use 3.14 and actually multiply them. All right, what is the circumference of the rim of a basketball hoop with a radius of 9 inches? All right, well, they already threw you for a loop because they're giving you radius and not diameter, and they didn't tell us how to find circumference using radius, right? Well, hopefully you know the relationship between radius and diameter. Radius is half of the diameter, or diameter is the radius times 2. So first, multiply the radius by 2 to get the diameter of 18. Then multiply the diameter by 3.14 to get the circumference of the circle. So we have 18 times 3.14. Okay, if I'm multiplying by hand, I'm going to put the number with the most decimal places on top because then I have the fewest amount of rows underneath. That's why I wrote it like that. So 8 times 4, 8 and 8 is 16, 16, 16 is 32. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 3 is 11. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Place value holder, I'm now moving to a different place value. So 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 3 is 3. 2, 5, 6, 5. I had 2 numbers behind a decimal up there, so I have 2 in my answer. So the diameter of that basketball hoop is about 56.52 inches. Okay, if the diameter is doubled, what happens to the circumference? Well, the circumference would double. If the radius doubles, the diameter doubles, thus the circumference doubles. Everything doubles. They have a very related or very connected relationship, circumference, radius, and diameter. Kayla and Theo got on the Ferris wheel shown. About how high will they be at the top of the Ferris wheel? Okay, this time it gives us circumference and it wants us to find the diameter. It wants to know how high they are up here. So we have circumference was pi times diameter. Okay, or we're finding diameter, so we could use diameter equals circumference divided by pi. Either way, it's going to work. It doesn't matter how you get there. So if we use the first way, we would get 220 equals pi times diameter. If we did it the other way, we would get diameter equals 20 divided by pi. To solve for diameter in this one, we're going to divide by pi anyway, which is what we did down there. See how they're the same? Either way, we're going to do 220 divided by pi. So we would get, one way, take your circumference equals pi times diameter, divide by pi, we would get about 70 feet high. Okay, another way to do it is, there is a third way to talk about pi, and that is by saying that it's 22 over 7. If you do 22 divided by 7, you get about what pi is. Okay, so there's 3 different ways to represent pi. There is the 3.14 way, which is right here. There is the pi way, the symbol way, which is right there. And then there is 22 over 7, which is right there. So there's 3 different ways of using it. Doesn't really matter other than knowing that there are 3 different ways to represent pi. So if we do this problem here, oh, that's that. 70 feet above the ground. We already did that. All right. Oh, I want to reset. Example 3. Let's go. Example 3 says the larger gear turns twice per second. It causes a smaller gear to turn. How fast does a smaller gear turn per second? All right, so first things first, we need to, step 1, use the circumference formula to find the circumference of the larger gear and the smaller gear. All right, so circumference of the larger gear. It has a diameter circumference equals pi times diameter, which would be pi times 6, which would be 3.14. 6 times 4, 6 and 6 is 12, 24. 6 and 2 is 8. 6 times 3 is 18. So we would have 1884-ish. I say ish because pi never ends, right? So there could be more decimals after there. We just don't particularly care about them. Next we have the small gear. So we have circumference equals pi times diameter, which is pi times 2, which is 3.14 times 2, 8, 2, 6. 6.28. Okay, that's our step 1. We did that. Next is there's that 18.84, 6.28. Says go to the next page. Next. Step 2, divide to find the number of full turns the smaller gear makes when the larger gear makes one full turn. So we're going to do 18 divided by 6.28, which will give us an even 3. So the smaller gear makes 3 full turns every full turn of the larger gear. So if the larger gear is twice per second, the smaller gear is 3 times that, so it would be 6 times per second. There it is behind my 18.84, 6. 3 times 2 is 6. It would make 6 full turns per second. A circle has a circumference of 9.42. Why did that not work? All right, guess it's not going to let me shortcut. Has a circumference of 9.42 units. So 9.42 equals, what is the area of the square? Use 3.14 for n. So we have circumference equals pi times diameter. What is the area of the square? Oh, circle, square, gotcha. So we have pi times diameter, which means we're going to divide by pi. That's not going to be there. 9.42, 3.14. 3.14 goes into 9.42. I'm going to assume 3 times. 3, 1, 4, 3, 12, 14. And it doesn't. It goes into it 2-ish times. So if we know the radius, where's our diameter? Oh, we are finding diameter. So we have, trying to find a quick calculator here. I took even my own calculators away, so I don't have one to use real quick. So we would have 9.42 divided by 3.14 is 3 even. Why didn't it work out for me up here? That was confusing. All right, so if we know the diameter is 3, that means this is 1.5, and this is 1.5, and 1.5 times 1.5 is 2.25. We did length times width to get the area of the square. Okay, so how I got that is I found the diameter of the circle, which then told me the radius of the circle, which then told me the length and the width of the square, and then I took the length times the width was the area of a square, which is 2.25. Okay, so puzzling questions, you got to try to think outside the box sometimes, but know the difference between radius, diameter, how to find one given the other, and know how to find circumference, diameter, and radius given 2 out of the 3.